Do you know, the greatest enemy of success is not failure, but meaningless socializing? How much time, how many opportunities have been buried under empty meetings and hollow conversations? And have you realized, the more you rely on others, the weaker your own power becomes? Today, we will reveal why rejecting shallow socializing might be the smartest decision of your life. Get ready, because what you are about to hear could change everything. Have you ever wondered, why do we spend so much time maintaining social interactions that are often just formalities, offering no real connection or benefit? Skillful networking can help us expand our circle, but when overused, it can quickly turn into wasted time, making us forget one crucial truth: the power of self-reliance and personal ability. In many cases, the ability to say no gracefully is the wisest move, because sometimes a polite refusal is not cutting ties, it's protecting yourself, preserving your values, and saving your energy for what truly matters. Listen carefully and apply this in real life. The very first principle of living wisely is, relying on yourself is better than relying on others. In life, many people believe that knowing successful, influential, or powerful individuals will make the path to their dreams easier. They think connections are the golden key to unlock every door. But truly wise people see it differently. They know that lasting success does not come from dependency, but from one's own abilities and self-reliance. Because when you depend too heavily on relationships to gain opportunities, you put yourself in a weaker position. If you are not truly skilled or valuable, then no matter how many successful people you know, you still cannot create real benefits for yourself. In that case, social connections become nothing more than empty shells. They not only waste your time, but can also strip away your confidence, making you dependent on others. Remember, relying on yourself is better than relying on others. When you build strength from within, you become independent, free, and in control of your future, rather than leaving it in someone else's hands. Help from others may be temporary, but your true abilities will last forever and stay with you for a lifetime. The second principle: do not rely on benefactors or lucky saviors. In life, we may meet many people, build countless connections, but the truth is, no one can walk with us forever. What truly matters is the ability to stand up on your own, to keep walking the path you've chosen, no matter how many obstacles or challenges lie ahead. When you train yourself, equipping your mind with essential skills and knowledge, you no longer need to wait for external help. You will realize that true strength comes from within, and only you hold the power to shape your destiny. Once you are steadfast and confident, you will see that every challenge is simply a stepping stone to take you further. At that moment, you won't need a benefactor anymore, because you will have become the savior of your own life. Happiness and success, in the end, can only be truly lasting when you build them with your own wisdom and determination. The third principle: empty socializing is no match for being alone. As the saying goes, better alone than in shallow company. In life, solitude can sometimes be a precious gift. It allows us to hear the voice within, to reflect, to realign, and to discover the path we are truly meant to take. Successful people are rarely afraid of being alone. On the contrary, they use quiet moments to learn, to create, and to continually improve themselves. Do not fear silence, for it is in those moments that you truly face yourself and understand what you genuinely need and desire. Socializing without real value is no different from pouring water into an empty vessel. Instead, devote your time to what truly matters, to the relationships that are genuinely meaningful, and above all, to yourself. The fourth principle: without shared direction, true friendship is hard to sustain. In life, each of us has our own path, shaped by personal values, goals, and ideals. When two people share the same vision, their connection grows naturally and deeply. Empathy and mutual support form a solid foundation for lasting friendship. They share the same aspirations, overcome hardships together, and grow through shared experiences. On the other hand, when directions differ, distance inevitably grows. No matter how genuine the affection is, differences in values, life goals, and perspectives create invisible barriers. Conversations then no longer come from true understanding, but from reluctance. Decisions and actions lead to conflicts, and over time, these differences erode the bond, leaving the friendship faded and lifeless. That is why choosing friends or life companions should not be based solely on temporary fondness or initial comfort. What matters most is shared ideals and goals, for they are the glue that binds people together in the long run. The fifth principle: learn to say no gracefully. In life, there will be times when you must turn down a request or proposal freshly from those you respect or share a close bond with. A blunt refusal may unintentionally hurt others, create misunderstandings, or even strain the relationship. In contrast, a tactful refusal shows that you respect the other person's feelings while also valuing the relationship you share. More importantly, saying no gracefully demonstrates your confidence and control over your own life. It protects you from being taken advantage of or being overwhelmed by unwanted commitments. This is how you uphold your personal boundaries without creating conflict or making others feel rejected. As a result, you safeguard your own balance while preserving healthy, long-lasting relationships. In the final part of today's program, I'd like to share with you a story called The Twilight of Life. On my very first days in America, I happened to see a sign at a street corner that read "Estate Sale." I guessed it must be like selling off old things at home. In the front yard it's called a garage sale. In the backyard it's a yard sale. And when moving it's a moving sale. So perhaps estate sale was the same. I told myself I would look it up later, but, of course, I forgot. Back then, every time I saw a strange word on the street, I promised myself I'd look it up. But strangely, the more I promised, the more I forgot. What I remembered was always less than what I forgot. Until one day, when a co-worker, an American friend, explained it to me. She said, an estate sale means selling everything from spoons and bowls to clothes, beds, cabinets, even paintings and keepsakes. Nothing is left. She added that she and her husband once bought a luxury dining set, almost brand new, worth $5,000. Normally, she would have gladly paid $1,200 for it, yet they managed to buy it for only $500 at an estate sale. To get that bargain, they carefully noted down the date, time, and address, reminding each other days in advance. On the day, they woke up early, stood in line with many others, and when they finally got inside, she made a quick decision, luckily, securing the dream dining set at an unbelievable price. That was when I realized, prices at an estate sale aren't as cheap as a garage sale or a moving sale. These aren't leftovers, they're the entire possessions of the homeowner, often sold because they're moving into a nursing home or have no family left. For Americans, attending an estate sale feels like a fair or festival, especially in wealthy neighborhoods. From early morning, people line up for blocks. When the doors open, they rush inside, snatching things up, carrying items out in a bustling, almost festive frenzy. For me, the story of the estate sale was a small yet fascinating glimpse into American life when I had just arrived. But as time passed, swept up in the endless demands of making a living, I eventually forgot about it, just as I forgot so many other details from those early days abroad. One late autumn morning, though it was already 7, the sun had yet to rise. The silence was so deep that the only sound I could hear was the ticking of the wall clock. Outside the window, fog blanketed the hill behind my house, casting a hazy, somber shade over the withering yellow leaves. The cold crept into my fingertips, carrying with it a sense of desolation. That day, I changed my clothes to go help an old friend. He was holding an estate sale. Though we had agreed on 9, I went earlier hoping to share a pot of tea with him, for in my heart I thought, today might be the last time I see him. I had known him for about 5 or 7 years, ever since we met at the senior community center in the city. That day, he was the one who reached out first, shook my hand, and asked if I was the fan, the writer he often read. I was immediately touched by his gentle and kind demeanor. At the time, I was busy, so I only had time to give him my phone number, promising to meet another day. But over a few coffee invitations, our friendship gradually grew. He did not meet me often, yet he always lived in my memory as a respected elder friend. I often scolded myself for not calling him more, not inviting him out more, for I knew well that just a little time with the elderly could teach me so much wisdom, life experience, perspective. And yet, I still chose to spend most of my free hours with the young. Only when I needed advice, when I needed the wisdom of an older man, did I reach for him. My way of living, very modern, was always to seek the quickest answer from the right person. He, on the other hand, belonged to the old generation, always giving, never holding back, even if what he gave was the hard-earned knowledge of a lifetime. One crisp autumn morning, I suddenly thought of him. I had no particular question in mind. I simply remembered that his time was running short. So, I called and invited him out for coffee. That morning, he said, "I'm getting old too, you know." I understood the weight behind his words, for I had just turned down an invitation from my peers. A day at a farm, slaughtering a goat, drinking till dusk. Surely it would have been a good time, but every joy ends. With younger friends, there will always be another chance. With him fragile as an autumn breeze, who could say how many more chances there would be? After that coffee, I happened to see him again at the market. A strange unease stirred in me. I asked around, only to learn that his wife had passed away during the summer. She had gone to California to visit her daughter and grandchild, suffered a sudden stroke, and never came back. He wanted to bring her body back to Dallas where she had lived for decades for the funeral, but his son insisted it was easier for the daughter in California to handle everything. His reasoning: in America, a funeral home is a funeral home, it's all the same. The words pierced me with sorrow. I had only known him as a reader, a fellow writer. Never once had we shared a beer. He drank no alcohol, smoked no cigarettes. Yet that autumn morning, he suddenly took the half-burnt cigarette from my hand and inhaled deeply. I feared he would choke, but he didn't. Slowly, he released the smoke, lost in thought, and then said, "I've never told this to anyone. I never thought I would say it, but here I am, telling you." And that was how the story began. The sorrow inside me grew, like a silent cancer, until the day it erupted. I knew, sooner or later, death would come. I was not afraid of dying. What pained me was being a father who failed to raise his son properly. My wife and I had only 2 children. For the eldest, we provided everything: his education through university without a single loan. Once he started working, he kept his salary in his own account, while still living under our roof, eating our food, with us covering all his expenses. He called it the American way: financial independence, where parents had no right to interfere with their children's income. I accepted that. But when it came time for him to marry, he suddenly turned back to Vietnamese tradition. The parents must handle the wedding. I did not mind, for my own parents had arranged my wedding as well. But then came the house. He explained that if he borrowed $100,000 from the bank over 30 years, he would end up paying $300,000 total, 100 in principal and 200 in interest. So he asked us for a $100,000 loan interest-free, so he wouldn't have to pay the bank those extra $200,000, 50. For many nights I lay awake, turning it over in my mind. In the end, out of love for my wife, I gave the loan to my son. And just as I had feared, he never paid it back. My wife lived in quiet despair for many years thereafter, but heaven gave us a late blessing, a daughter, endlessly filial. She always stayed cheerful, saying, "Don't be sad, Pa, M.E. I'll handle my student loans later. If my brother needed help first, let him take it someday. The inheritance will come to us all anyway." She lived true to her words, and became the final source of comfort for us. Later, she married and moved to California. My wife wanted to sell the house and follow her there, but my son objected. He still needed his mother to care for his children. When my wife passed away suddenly, I wanted to bring her back to Dallas for burial, for that was her home. But my son objected again, saying it would cost too much. His reasoning was logical but cold, and merciless toward his own parents. Brother, how could I not grieve? That early autumn morning, as I remembered it all, my heart felt shattered. And that is why, today, I am here helping my old friends sell off the belongings of a lifetime in one single estate, as if to bid farewell to the final twilight of life. Life is like an autumn sky, filled with falling leaves. Spring blossoms, summer shines, autumn fades, winter arrives. Even if my old friend lived 100 years, the 100th autumn would still see him leave his beloved home, selling even the spoon that stirred his morning coffee, the cheap painting bought when he first arrived in America, the ticking clock whose sound only he could distinguish, even the handful of homeland soil he carried from Vietnam now, cursed relics, unsellable, unthrowable. Tears welled in my eyes as I gripped the wheel. With my own hands, I had sold away everything that tied him to life. I had become death's accomplice, stripping him of habits, memories, family, until nothing remained but departure. I recalled his wife's funeral in California. He lost half his life, left with nothing but emptiness inside. His son stood indifferent, urging him to draft a will to claim the house and his life insurance. His daughter, by contrast, cared deeply yet was powerless. She begged him to move to California, into a nursing home, so at least she could check on him a few hours each week. I advised him he had already given too much to his son. Selling the house and giving it to his daughter was only fair. As for the insurance, leave it for the grandchildren's education, a symbolic gift for the third generation in America. He agreed. Yet, as each memento was carried away, his eyes grew vacant, until the moment he shut the door for the last time, clutching his wife's portrait under his arm, whispering calmly, "Well then, I'm leaving, my dear." Outside, Halloween lights glowed along the street, signaling a festive season, but inside me, it was the bleakest late autumn morning when I bid farewell to a man, and to the home that marked the end of an entire family's story. I watched him walk slowly to his car. A life that began 80 years ago with nothing but a newborn's cry was now closing with the last item of an estate sale. Morning was for reflection, noon for sighs, and evening for tears flowing with each memory. Farewell, my friend. Yet at the end of the day, he smiled at his wife's portrait as he locked the door. That playful wink was proof. He came into this world with a cry, but left it with a smile because he carried love with him. I watched him fade into the falling night. Looking back at myself, after a day as death's accomplice, I held only a bottle of wine under my arm. Death often gives me wine, but this time his soldiers entered the wrong house, into the home of a man who never drank. They would have to wait until my own estate sale. The capital of human life is nothing more than a cry at birth. And at the end, what can one carry away but the taste of wine, a few sorrows, and half-fulfilled dreams? Yet in that farewell drink lies the sweetness of a life of love. And once we realize that morning has passed, we know that autumn of life has reached its close. Life is never as long as we think, yet it's filled with traps. The wise avoid meaningless social ties, but the real horror, ice and tea wasting time with strangers the day you realize the one who drained you was the very person you trusted most. So, will you choose to wake up and break free, or keep smiling, keep socializing until you lose yourself completely? See you again in the next video.